Hello, everyone, and thanks Sentient for hosting the awesome event. This has been something like the third or fourth Open AGI Summit. They're all great. So the real question is, how do we get robots in the wild? Where are we now? And in order to answer that question, my presentation is simply robots in 2026. Where are we now? How do we get where we want to go? Robots are the big thing right now. They've gone from this research topic to there's been a lot of buzz in the investment market to now everyone's talking about robots. They show up on TV, you run into them in the wild. And it's really reflected in the market, right? There are hundreds of robotics companies. There are multiple open source foundation models. People are building in the open for the most part. Over $3 billion have already been invested in the industry, and way more is to come. Everyone wants their stake in what they feel like is the next big thing. Because, well, if robots really do take off, that's $10 trillion, $50 trillion of market value that they can capture every bit of manual labor in the world. So in order to make robots really happen, you need the robots. Everyone sort of knows you need data at this point. It's like a common rhetoric that, oh, we need data to train the models. And the reason you need the data is because the machines need to be intelligent enough that ordinary people who don't know how to write code will be able to interact with the robots, right? It's like how ChatGPT changed how we build apps. These interfaces are going to change how we interact with machines. And powering all that, you need humans. Fundamentally, all this data, all this intelligence, distribution of the robots, manufacturing of the robots, all of this is powered by people. And people are really freaking important. People are also a really good thing to build a business around because technology becomes commoditized, it becomes copied. But people and labor and the work that they do, it can't be copied, it can't be stolen because every minute of that is a real human being spending their time to do something. That's one of the big theses we have here at PrismaX. We want to help robotics scale by building communities of owner operators, people who are interested in robotics, who want to be able to participate in the new robotics economy, to be able to participate early, to be able to get a piece of the industry by contributing a robot to our network, to do everything from, obviously, data collection is the thing that everyone will tell you is the big thing. It's true, it's a big thing, but more than that, it's about having robots in the wild. It's about educating people how these machines work, familiarizing people, and building these communities of people who are able to engage with the greater machine economy. And in order to make these people useful, they need some way to be able to interact with the robots, right? They need to be able to have robots. They need to know which robots to get. They need to be able to access these machines. And there's a lot of confusion on what robots are because if you go on social media, it's overwhelmingly all bipeds. It's legged robots because legged robots are really interesting to look at. The VCs are going to complain at you and say why your robot doesn't have legs, why that robot has legs. But robots mean a lot more than that. There are these cafe robots, there's industrial automation, and all of that is in some way an intelligent machine. But in 2026, when we talk about robotics, when we talk about what's really exciting, what people are investing in, what we mean are machines which perceive the world through sensors, are controllable through some natural interface, probably natural language, but it could be pictures, it could be demonstrations, and execute physical actions in the real world following those instructions. It doesn't care what the machine is. The machine could be a crane, it could be a gantry, it could be a humanoid, it could be a dog. What's important is this idea of interacting with the environment, perceiving the environment, then doing physical work in the environment. And it also doesn't really matter how general the underlying intelligence is. If you've cracked a use case which is worth $1 billion, sure, go build that machine. It's worth $1 billion. If you think you want to tackle $1 trillion of general labor, that's also awesome. Go build that. What really matters is that someone is interested in paying for this product. And I think that brings me to like a very interesting point. If you go on social media, it's full of these backflipping, dancing, fighting, whatever. Like the robots can flip, and I think every axis now forwards, backwards, left, right, up, down. But none of these are useful. Like outside of maybe these really niche entertainment applications, really what you want is something boring. You want a pair of robot arms and a cart. I would argue the robot doesn't need to move. I think the best way to get the machine where you need it to is to pick it up and push it. People are pretty good at moving things around, right? So I think that's one of those things. That's one of the things that our network helps standardize and coordinate is this idea to help these owner operators, help these people learn about and access and purchase and invest in machines which can make money now, not machines that might need 5 years, 10 years to actually become practical. And how do you make money with the machines right now? You can make a lot of money if you have the right machine, and the way you do it is you go collect data and sell it to these big AI labs, which have almost unlimited capital and unlimited appetite for data. The data is important because that's the data which builds the intelligence that will make your machine worth more in the future. So it's more than just revenue. You're collecting data to build a model that makes your investment worth more, and that's really cool. And everyone knows that data is worth money. I think like half the projects here are probably collecting data in some way, shape, or form. But I think one of the things, if you observe what Sentient's doing, what we're doing, what all of the sponsors here are doing, is we've gotten a lot more specific in what data we collect as we engage more and more with the demand side. It's about meeting those standards and about meeting that specificity to make the data immediately saleable rather than sitting on this AWS bucket full of data and hoping that you can sell it 3 years from now. That's important because those immediate sales, that immediate traction, that's what drives faith in your network. That's what drives attention. It's what makes people actually interested. They can earn now. They don't have to wait 3 years for your token to hopefully recover from whatever a shit show happened to it last week and then be worth money again, right? So that kind of revenue generation is important. And I think more and more the remaining Web3 projects in AI have figured out how to make data actually worth money. And all of that goes into intelligence. It's a new word. It really became something that people talked about in the last year, this idea of super intelligence. And for the language modeling people, that means whatever, like solving math problems. For robotics, it's a much simpler problem. We need to get these things smart enough that if I put it in your house, it does something useful rather than just falling over or making a mess. And that's what we're all building towards, because once we can get these intelligent machines, it's no longer $1 billion industry. It's no longer a $10 billion industry. It's a trillion, $10 trillion industry. It's 1,000x increase in value. How does the intelligence work? It's not this. This is how like agents work. They like look around, run the prompts through a bunch of models, try to do some reasoning, and like hopefully get the answer right. But if you ever use the agent, the answer is like sometimes wrong, sometimes it's usually wrong. And that's like fine if you're building a web agent. If you're trying to get the robot to do your homework or fill out your spreadsheet, you can go interact with ChatGPT for a little bit and hopefully get the right answer. If you're giving the agent your wallet to go trade your meme coins, then might lose all your meme coins, but they're probably going to lose all their value anyway. But in the physical world, this is a much bigger problem. If you buy a robot and it goes and smashes your dishes once a week, it may still be 93% accurate, but it's probably a really bad product. So we need something which is a lot more accurate than these agentic workflows, which sometimes miss. The way we get this robustness is through a flow that looks like this. I'll be available after the talk if you guys are more interested in learning about this, but basically this mirrors the execution flow of a modern large language model. It generates all of the actions purely statistically based on data. There are virtually no human decisions in the pipeline. There are no rules. And what that does is it lets you scale with the data. The more data you show the model, the more accurate the model becomes. And it's very predictable. And if you have enough data, the model will never be completely wrong. In the same way that ChatGPT never generates text which isn't grammatically correct English, you can hope that this model generates actions which are always physically sane, right? It's not going to chuck the dish across the room or try to put the robot through the floor. It's always going to, like, maybe it misses the dish, maybe the dish is still dirty, but you can mitigate all these disasters that the agentic pipelines sometimes have. So that those are all the pieces we need to make robots happen. And I think a lot of you are going to wonder when the robots will happen. I think it's going to be in maybe 18 months. It's going to be 18 months before we have something out in the wild that actually does something useful. Probably 3 to 5 years before we have something which is truly general. The first robot's not going to be a humanoid. I can guarantee that. I'll bet a lot of whatever shit coins on that the first robot will be something which is on a cart or a static appliance. But robots are going to happen. It's more than a dream. It's more than a fundraising scam. It's more than a narrative. It's something that will actually change the world, and we're building towards making that happen in a way which we think makes a lot of sense, scaling the operations first, providing the general services. And I think in the next time I come to Open AGI Summit, maybe it won't be me, maybe it'll be a robot doing the keynote. Thank you very much.